And now I'd like to open the meeting to the sharing of testimonies of healing through Christian Science. Jeremy, go ahead.
I am very grateful tonight for being taught a lesson over the past few days. On Monday night, while driving my kids home, I started to feel ill, which was very odd for me. Even before coming to Plainfield, I almost never have been sick. It wasn't until 7th grade that I missed a day of school, and only 2 or 3 times have I ever had to call into work. And the last time was at least 6 years ago. So, to me, this feeling ill was a puzzlement, but I knew God would get me through it. But then at 4:30 a.m. this morning, I woke up with a firm understanding. I've been very grateful for the positive changes that Christian Science has brought to my life over the past few years, and I've always been grateful for the health of my children, but I have not been grateful enough for those aspects of my life that seemed normal and didn't need to change. Recently, it occurred to me when reading how Jesus said, Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself, that I haven't ever done that. Everyone I ever considered to be my neighbor, I have loved and treated much better than myself. For whatever reason, I have never thought I deserved love. Therefore, this lifetime of treating myself poorly makes my good health even more amazing, and proof that God has been watching out for me despite how I fought every step of the way. So tonight I need to give gratitude for all that God has given me. I'm grateful that God has had me as an idea, and He keeps thinking of me. I'm grateful for the constant blessing of wonderful health. I'm grateful for Christian Science because I know that only the explanation that we are God's ideas would ever have brought me to the place where I could conceive of showing myself any love. I'm grateful that today is always an opportunity to do better in His sight. And finally, I'm grateful for this church, my practitioner, the weekly lessons, and every part and member of the spiritual organization. Thank you.
Thank you. Lillian, go ahead.
There are so many ways God is directing and caring for us, and nothing is too small for God. I recently filed an important paper in a file. I wanted to refer back to it, so went looking for it, but couldn't find it. I began to get upset, so I stopped looking. I later got the thought to look again, and in a different part of the file, and there it was. I am just so glad for God's directing me and that I listened. He's always there for whatever we need, and it's up to us to listen and follow through. And it wasn't just luck, because God is always speaking to us and blessing us. And thank you for those wonderful readings.
Thank you. Linda from Pennsylvania, go ahead.
Good evening. Thank you for the readings and for the beautiful prelude this today. I just wanted to quickly express my gratitude for something I discovered this week on the Plainfield website. I was feeling very distracted and having trouble focusing on prayer and feeling was very disruptive at the house, and I was not feeling peace. And it came to me to look up the hymns, which I find very comforting. And usually I listen to the ones that are on the website, and they're beautiful, but they don't play straight through on my iPad. And the thought came to me to look it up on the YouTube, and I didn't realize they were individually set up, and they play one after another. So for anybody who doesn't know that already, if you look up just a hymn, there are a whole bunch in a row, and you can just listen to them nonstop. They're beautifully read and then beautifully sung by the congregation. And the disruptions stopped, and my peace returned, and I felt very comforted, and I was so grateful to have that, and also having the God messages that lead us to sometimes unexpected places that we didn't know about. Thank you for everything this evening. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Luann from New York, go ahead.
Thank you. I would like to express my gratitude for everything I received on my visit to the Plainfield Church. I came away with a rich sense of family and witnessed true examples of brotherly love, a sense of being in the presence of Christ, which strengthened me to rise higher in my own application of truth. I am grateful for all the work that the members are doing every day to shine forth the light of God. Christian Science has changed my view of the world. I am truly grateful for this wonderful way of life. Growing up in a very dysfunctional family, I never got a real sense of what family means. Although we looked out for each other in our childhood, when we get together now, it seems the conversation never rises any higher than rehashing events of the past or who has accomplished the most in life. Christian Science has given me a new family, a family of love and understanding, of compassionate individuals who pray and watch and work tirelessly, demonstrating Christ's truth. Brothers and sisters who lift me up and guide me forward as I strive to know and understand my relationship with God. This is substance, that which is eternal and incapable of discord and decay. From Science and Health, page 468. I thank God every day for His grace and mercy. I am truly grateful for all the members of this church, and thank God for Mrs. Eddy, who courageously gave us divine science. Thank you.
Thank you. Dale from Virginia, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you for those wonderful readings and the other testimonies. I'd like to express gratitude tonight for the discipline of our unity watches and individual watches in this church. The regular practice of praying in this scientific way, acknowledging the allness, the omnipotence of God and His goodness, and correcting every discordant claim that comes to our thought, and ending with the peace that can only come from knowing that God, good, is the only governor the world over. I know that this has made me grow in science. This regular prayer has changed my daily thinking, and that, combined with all I am learning from a strong and loving practitioner in this church, makes me appreciate Christian Science more and more. I've been in Christian Science my whole life, and nowhere else did I learn about doing watches. I am so grateful to be learning to let God use me and to be a part of this compassionate and powerful prayer for the world.
Thank you. Chardell from Pennsylvania, go ahead.
Hello. Tonight, I would like to express my gratitude for the Plainfield Independent newsletter, edited by Jim and Carol. I have been using it every day to support my spiritual studies and also for comfort. The thing I would like to share this evening is from a letter to a patient on page 3 of the August edition. Here it is. True mind forever saying to us, this is a quote now, none shall take you out of my hand. That's the end of that quote. For His truth shall be thy shield and buckler. The quote, none shall take you out of my hand, from the article, is from John 10:28. Thank you for the readings, for the music, for all of you. Good evening.
Thank you. This is Bruce. I'm endlessly grateful for many lessons I've learned, and it seems like when I really learn them, it really reforms my character And I feel closer to God, feel more of His presence, but also feel more of His power and dominance, and as His child, my dominion over evil. So many times in the Bible it talks about Jesus, after He heals somebody or does something special, especially good, that He tells them not to be telling everybody else all about it. And I've often wondered why, but I think there's so much wisdom in it, because I found so many times in my own experience when I start opening my mouth and saying things, I find myself into a pretty difficult spot that could have easily been avoided if I had just simply kept my peace and let the example of the experience speak for itself. And then recently we've been talking about this sheepdog, Lass, and the many lessons that it had to witness his example. And it's a very inspiring story. But the owner says one of the most difficult lessons that Lass had to learn was to stay. This was a very active dog, a very good dog. He just could hardly wait to get up on his feet and run around, do this and that and whatever. But to stay was one of his most challenging lessons to learn. And as it is for me as well. So I'm very grateful to learn that if God does something good in my life, let that thing speak for itself. And let that example, because it'll communicate far more and far better than anything else can. And for me, it shed a little bit more light on Jesus' statement where He said, "Let your light so shine that men will see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven." And that leads me to believe I got to believe that when I open my mouth and talk more than I should, that means like I'm looking for the glory for myself. No, the good works should cause men to glorify your Father which is in heaven. And what can do that better than the good example? So let your light shine and just stay, because that light will go further on its own because it has the divine power back of it than anything I can do to manipulate it with words of myself. So I'm grateful to be learning this wonderful lesson because it most certainly is very good. Carol, go ahead.
I woke up the other morning with the thought, beware of wolves in sheep's clothing. And it kind of puzzled me. I really wasn't sure what that was all about, but I just kept my eyes open and I realized that it's perhaps someone that we meet during the day who tends to gossip, and it doesn't seem so bad, but it is. It's a sin. And I thought of other things. I thought of like churches that manipulate their members, and other things that don't look really bad, but really are. And another thing was the news media, how they put a spin on almost everything they report, and you really can't believe hardly any of it. So I decided what I'm doing now, anytime I hear anything or read anything or whatever that begins to disturb me, I repeat, the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof, the world and they that dwell therein. That's from the Bible. And from Science and Health, I believe it is. I know it's by Mary Baker Eddy. She says, no evidence before the material senses can close my eyes to the scientific proof that God good is supreme. And I don't have to know what's true or what's behind it. I just have to know it's God. God's behind it. God's in front of it. God's in the middle of it. And His will is done. I am so very grateful for this, and I've been so aware now of things that are going on, and I'm very, very grateful for this church, and grateful for practitioner help that I've been getting. You really notice things more when it seems when I'm having practitioner help, things just light up. It's just wonderful. I'm so grateful, and thank you.
Thank you. Sharon, go ahead.
I'm so grateful to be able to speak in front of a group. When I first came to this church, I was very bashful and never wanted to speak in front of a group. And I remember telling a practitioner in this church, I'm never going to give a testimony. I don't do that. And she laughed. And I didn't understand why, but when you're so grateful for the good that God has given you, you can't stay in your seat. And I remember my first testimony. Nobody judged me. Nobody made fun of what I said. All they did was love me. And they were so grateful for the good that I was expressing, that I received from God. And this has taken me into the workplace and into my neighborhood, any place I need to be. It's not just limited to one thing. It freed me in all ways. I am just so grateful for all the good that God has given me, all the good that's been done in this church, and for the standard bearers that stood. I'm grateful for practitioner help, Mary Baker Eddy, and thank you for the readings.
Thank you. Okay, Tom from Iowa, go ahead.
I'd like to say that I'm grateful for how God takes care of us and cares for us. My brother went to South Carolina a couple months ago, and it did not go well for him on his trip. I paid for him to have a bus ticket, and he was able to come back to Iowa. But unbeknownst to me, his luggage was left, and so as time went on, he didn't have all his clothes to wear. But then he got a letter stating that they would send his luggage back to the nearest bus depot. He was able to get his luggage, and he was grateful. And when I heard of this, I said to myself, thank you, God. I don't see it as coincidence or overlook it, but this was God working through others' inspiring kindness. So I'm grateful to God for taking care of my brother in this way. I'm also grateful for the church, practitioner help I've been receiving, and Christ Jesus and Mary Baker Eddy. Thank you.
Thank you. Carol, go ahead.
Thank you. I just want to say how grateful I am to have these Wednesday night services. Because during the week, sometimes, you get a little wrapped up in what you're doing and work and such. And to have these services to come to on Wednesday nights, it just lifts your heart and it just gets you back 100% with God, and you know that everything is going to work out well. And I just am so very grateful that Mary Baker Eddy made provisions for these services, and very, very grateful to be here. Thank you.
Thank you.
I will read from the church bulletin board on our website tonight and also give my testimony. The first is from Virginia. Thank you all for an inspiring roundtable and Sunday service. It's wonderful to be back and hearing you all again. And then Georgia, thank you for an inspiring Bible study. Thanks to Tom for pointing out the innkeeper's role in Jesus' parable of the Good Samaritan. It is a reminder that not one of us is insignificant. We all have our place in the kingdom of heaven. And then another from Virginia. Thank you so much for all that was shared in the roundtable on Sunday. So many practical, vital, and natural ways to practice and live this science. Also, the very important work of supporting Mrs. Eddy's place in the discovery of Christian Science, as was read about the book Science and Health, when in a fire and everything else was destroyed, not a word in the book was harmed. The contents of this book, immortal. And that's from Miscellany, page 178. And then Maryland, thank you for reviewing how to do a good watch during Sunday's roundtable class. It was wonderful, and I appreciated hearing all the many issues that need to be taken up during a watch. We will never run out of things that need praying about. Our work is never done, and thank God for it. It's the most important work in the world. And then Florida, I just love the comments on the lesson forum. Thank you all for your helpful posts. Tonight I am grateful for those readings. This is certainly, we had a watch on it last night, keeping the youth, keeping all of us really from these idols, something that would lure us away. And as we worked on last night, and as Mrs. Eddy says, that the only real attraction is that of spirit. In one of the Carpenter books, Gilbert Carpenter says that it's so much wiser when a parent protects instead of directs his child or children. And by that he meant sometimes it's very easy to tell a child, do this, do that, don't do this, usually out of fear. But when you protect your children, you know that they have the mind of Christ, that they will do right, that they are obedient to the mind that made them, as Mrs. Eddy says, and they cannot be influenced erroneously. This is the work that should be done by a Christian Science parent, and it should be done for all of us in knowing that this truth and to let this truth operate. Recently, I've been able to observe a young child, someone younger than 2, and I was interested in watching it because in a recent lesson and roundtable we talked about one of the duties of man is to be childlike, that Jesus said we wouldn't enter the kingdom of heaven unless we were to become as a little child. So in observing this little one, some of the things that I observed was, well, one, that she would wake up in the morning so happy. None of this, oh, it's taken me a while, and oh my goodness, it's a gloomy day. Of course not. A little child just wakes up naturally happy, and then so happy to see everybody, and you know, to greet them with hugs and kisses and hellos, just exuberantly, and to express love when given a ball or something to play with, that she would want to share it with others, and just so delighted in the simple things. And I was watching her. She's learning a lot of new things, but one is climbing the stairs by herself. And every step she would take, she would say, "I did it, Mommy, I did it." But it was such enthusiasm for the smallest thing. And I really learned a lot. And I wrote some of these things down to remember. Am I that joyous in the morning? Am I so happy to see people? Am I grateful and exuberant to overcome or to conquer some new challenge? This is the childlike qualities that we all must cultivate in ourselves, and to pray that they are kept. I will conclude from Miscellaneous Writings on 110, where she tells us, "Beloved children, the world has need of you, and more as children than as men and women. It needs your innocence, unselfishness, faithful affection, uncontaminated lives. You need also to watch and pray that you preserve these virtues unstained and lose them not through contact with the world. What grander ambition is there than to maintain in yourselves what Jesus loved, and to know that your example, more than words, makes morals for mankind." Oh, I look forward to hearing some more testimonies.
Jeff from North Carolina, go ahead.
Good evening. It's been a long time since I've been able to get on for one reason or another. I had a battery fail on me once when as soon as I heard that, Jeff, North Carolina, battery went dead. But anyway, I finally got on, and I'm so happy to be able to listen in on the church services. And I had an incident this past week where I got promoted to a new position. Wasn't sure about myself. I just would do what the Lord brought to me, and they needed a favor, so I was happy to do it. And they said that one of the co-managers came up to me, and he kind of had it wasn't a happy face, but he said, we've had a couple of, and I thought he was going to say complaints, and he said, we're so happy with your work. We've had a couple of, people that told us how great you've been doing, and we're going to give you a gift card for $50 on top of the extra pay that I got from my promotion. And that was just one example of some of the things that have resulted through my daily contact with a practitioner at the church, and just learning the things that I need to grow in my understanding of God being all there is, and just trusting that everything is working out. Thank you so much. Good night.
And thank you. Florence from Georgia, go ahead.
Thank you. I'm so grateful, really, truly grateful for everything that's going on in this church. Christian Science has really changed my thinking and the way I think. And as we read in the hymn, the first hymn 383, it shows how important pure thought is. And I don't know where else I could have learned the discipline of maintaining right thinking except for here. Here we are shown every day how to get up and make God first in our lives. And I also have learned that it is with a humble and grateful heart that my thinking can stay clear. And as the hymn says, from every blemish free. I think that is so beautiful, because I realized that way back then when I started to study Christian Science, I was so nervous, no confidence at all, self-doubt, self-criticism, everything that would put me down I did, but not really even realizing it. At times I thought I was so humble, but then it was, putting myself down all the time. But this church, all the things that it teaches, the literature available, all of it really has helped me to stay thinking right. A lot has to do, or almost everything that is good in my life has come from right thinking. To put back all the suggestions that come that, will seek to make themselves true about me, but rather putting me down, making me doubt even the work that I'm doing in science and everything. But I am grateful that the insistence on being humble always, being humble meaning that I'm accepting what the truth is teaching me and being grateful for it, that God is saying all these good things about me. This is what has changed my life and has changed my thinking, and I cannot be grateful enough for it. Thank you so much for the readings tonight, for the hymns, and for every single testimony. Thank you.
Thank you. Elizabeth from Georgia, go ahead.
There are a lot of idols out there that are arguing for attention that sometimes maybe you're not aware of, other than, alcohol and drugs and that kind of thing. But there's Facebook and internet and TV and Twitter and billboards, and it's very easy to have them try and take over your thought, to get sucked in. And I'm just grateful to have become more sensitive to what these messages are trying to do and more aware to handle them. I found over the past year or so that I can't even be in the same room when some of these reality TV shows are on, or I just can't even be around certain music. I just have to almost run away. So I'm just grateful to be aware that this is something that needs to be handled all the time. Thank you.
Thank you.